This is called Miss Lonely Hearts Returns. Several days later, they started to drive back to the city. When they reached the Bronx slums, Miss Lonely Hearts knew that Betty had failed to cure him and that he had been right when he had said that he would never forget the letters. He felt better knowing this because he had begun to think himself a faker and a fool. Crowds of people moved through the street with a dreamlike violence. As he looked at their broken hands and torn mouths, he was overwhelmed by the desire to help them. And because this desire was sincere, he was happy despite the feeling of guilt which accompanied it. He saw a man who appeared to be on the verge of death stagger into a movie theater that was showing a picture called Blonde Beauty. He saw a ragged woman with an enormous goiter pick a love story magazine out of a garbage can and seem very excited by her find. Prodded by his conscience, he began to generalize. Men have always fought their misery with dreams. Although dreams were once powerful, they have been made puerile by the movies, radio, and newspapers. Among many betrayals, this one is the worst. The thing that made his share in it particularly bad was that he was capable of dreaming the Christ dream. He felt that he had failed at it, not so much because of Shrike's jokes or his own self-doubt, but because of his lack of humility. He finally got to bed. Before falling asleep, he vowed to make a sincere attempt to be humble. In the morning, when he started for his office, he renewed his vow. Fortunately for him, Shrike was not in the city room, and his humility was spared an immediate trial. He went straight to his desk and began to open letters. When he had opened about a dozen, he felt sick and decided to do his column for that day without reading any of them. He didn't want to test himself too severely. The typewriter was uncovered and he put a sheet of paper into the roller. Christ died for you. He died nailed to a tree for you. His gift to you is suffering, and it is only through suffering that you can know him. Cherish this gift, for he snatched the paper out of the machine. With him, even the word Christ was a vanity. After staring at the pile of letters on his desk for a long time, he looked out the window. A slow spring rain was changing the dusty tar roofs below him to its shiny patent leather. The water made everything slippery, and he could find no support for either his eyes or his feelings. Turning back to his desk, he piled up a bulky letter in a dirty envelope. He picked up a bulky letter in a dirty envelope. He read it for the same reason that an animal tears at a wounded foot, to hurt the pain. Ready? Come here, Bush. Oh, there you go. Dear Miss Lonely Hearts, being an admirer of your column because you give such good advice to people in trouble, as that is what I am in. Also, I would appreciate very much your advising me what to do after I tell you my troubles. During the war, I was told if I wanted to do my bid, I should marry the man I was engaged to, as he was going away to help Uncle Sam, and to make a long story short, I was married to him. After the war was over, he still had to remain in the army for 1 more year as he signed for it. Naturally, I went to work as while doing this patriotic stunt, he had only $18 to his name. I worked for 3 years steady and then had to stay home because I became a mother, and in the meantime of those years, my husband would get a job and then would tire of it or want to roam. It was all right before the baby came because then I could work steady and then bills were paid, but when I stopped, everything went sliding backward. Then 2 years went by and a baby boy was added to our union. My girl will be 8 and my boy 6 years of age. I made up my mind after I had the second child that in spite of my health, as I was hit by an auto while carrying the first, I would get some work to do, but debts collected so rapidly it almost took a derrick to lift them, let alone a sick woman. I went to work evenings while my husband would be home so as somebody could watch the baby, and I did this until the baby was 3 years old, when I thought of taking in a man who had been boarding with his sister as she moved to Rochester, and he had to look for a new place. Well, my husband agreed, as he figured the $15 per he paid us would make it easier for him, as this man was a widower with 2 children, and as my husband knew him for 12 years, being real pals, then going out together, etc. After the boarder was with us for about a year, my husband didn't come home one night, and then 2 nights, etc. I listed him in the missing persons, and after 2.5 months, I was told to go to Grove Street, which I did, and he was arrested because he refused to support me and my kids. When he served 3 months at the 6th, the judge asked me to give him another chance, which, like a fool, I did. And when he got home, he beat me up, so I had to spend over $30 in the dentist afterwards. Jabushki. He got a pension from the army, and naturally I was the one to take it to the store and cash it, as he was so lazy. I always had to sign his name and, of course, put per my name, and through wanting to pay the landlord because he wanted to put us out, I signed his check as usual, but forgot to put per my name. And for this, to get even with me because he did 3 months' time, he sent to Washington for the copy of the check so I could be arrested for forgery, but as the butcher knew about me signing the checks, etc., nothing was done to me. He threatened my life many times, saying, "No one solved the Mrs. Mills murder, and the same will happen to you," and many times when making beds I would find under his pillow a hammer, scissors, knife, stone lifter, etc., and when I asked him what the idea was, he'd make believe he knew nothing about it, or say the children put them there. And then a few months went by, and I was going to my work as usual, as the boarder had to stay home that day due to the fact that the material for his boss did not arrive, and he could not go to work as he is a piece worker. I always made a habit of setting the breakfast and cooking the food the night before so I could stay in bed until 7. As that time my son was in the Kings County Hospital with a disease which my husband gave me that he got while fighting for Uncle Sam, and I had to be on the clinic for the needle too. So while I was in bed, unbeknown to me, my husband sent the boarder out for a paper, and when he came back, my husband was gone. So later when I came from my room, I was told that my husband had gone out. I fixed the child's breakfast and ate my own, and then went to the wash tub to do the week's wash, and while the boarder was reading the paper at 12 o'clock noon, my mother came over to mind the baby as I had a chance to go out and make a little money doing housework. Things were a little out of order, beds not dressed and things out of place, and a little sweeping had to be done as I was washing all morning and I didn't have a chance to do it, so I thought to do it then while my mother was in the house with her to help me so that I could finish quickly. Hurrying at breakneck speed to get finished, I swept through the rooms to make sure everything was spick and span, so when my husband came home he couldn't have anything to say. We had 3 beds and I was on the last, which was a double bed, when stooping to put the broom under the bed to get at the lint and the dust, when lo and behold I saw a face like the mask of a devil with only the whites of the eyes showing and hands clenched to choke anyone, and then I saw it move and I was so frightened that almost till night I was hysterical and I was paralyzed from my waist down. I thought I would never be able to walk again. A doctor was called for me by my mother, and he said the man ought to be put in an asylum to do a thing like that. It was my husband, lying under the bed from 7 in the morning till almost 1:30, lying in his own dirt instead of going to the bathroom when he had to be dirtied himself, waiting to frighten me. So as I could not trust him, I would not sleep with him, and as I told the boarder to find a new place because I thought maybe he was jealous of something, I slept in the boarder's bed in another room. Some nights I would wake up and find him standing by my bed laughing like a crazy man and walking around stripped, etc. I bought a new sewing machine, as I do some sewing for other people to make both ends meet, and one night while I was out delivering my work, I got back to find the house cleaned out, and he had pawned my sewing machine and also all the other pawnables in the house. Ever since he frightened me, I have been so nervous during the night when I get up for the children that he would be standing behind a curtain and either jump out at me or put his hand on me before I could light the light. As I had to see that, I could not make him work steady, and that I had to be mother and housekeeper and wage earner, etc. And I cannot let my nerves get the best of me, as I lost a good job once on account of having bad nerves. I simply moved away from him, and anyway there was nothing much left in the house. But he pleaded with me for another chance, so I thought, seeing he is the father of my children, I will. And then he did more crazy things, too too many to write, and I left him again. 4 times we got together, and 4 times I left. Please, Miss Lonely Hearts, believe me, just for the children's sake, is the bunk, and pardon me because I don't know how you are fixed. All I know is that in over 3 years I got $200 from him altogether. About 4 months ago, I handed him a warrant for his arrest for non-support, and he tore it up and left the house, and I haven't seen him since. And as I had pneumonia and my little girl had the flu, I was put in financial embarrassment with the doctor. And we had to go to the ward. And when we came out of the hospital, I had to ask the boarder to come to live with us again, as he was sure of $15 a week. And if anything happened to me, he would be there to take care of the children. But he tries to make me be bad, and there's nobody in the house when he comes home drunk on Saturday night. I don't know what to do, but so far, I didn't let him. Where my husband is, I don't know, but I received a vile letter from him where he even accused his innocent children of things and sarcastically asked about the star border. Dear Miss Lonely Hearts, please don't be angry at me for writing such a long letter and taking up so much of your time and reading it. But if I ever write all the things that happened to me living with him, it would fill a book. And please forgive me for saying some nasty things, as I had to give you an idea of what is going on in my home. Every woman is entitled to a home, isn't she? So, Miss Lonely Hearts, please put a few lines in your column when you refer to this letter so I will know you are helping me. Shall I take my husband back? How can I support my children? Thanking you for anything you can advise me in, I remain your truly, Broad Shoulders. P.S. Dear Miss Lonely Hearts, don't think I am broad-shouldered, but that is the way I feel about life and me, I mean.